Isaac, maybe, I don't know if this is probably a good company as an example of that, but we noticed that you posted this on LinkedIn yesterday. Why are we not talking about Tesla and Elon Musk enough? Just take us through your thinking here. In what way should we look at a company like Tesla, who obviously has massive exposure to China as a final market, but also supply chains and the relationship? And who knows, if Donald Trump wins, Elon Musk might actually get a position in the administration.
So Elon Musk is a brilliant entrepreneur, world's richest man, but also someone who refuses to say anything critical about China. And so you wonder what is missing there. And then you dig into Musk's exposure via Tesla, and you find it to be absolutely massive. It's in our top 5, and it's something that we feel like people really need to understand: the supply chain exposure, the joint ventures they have with the party, the ability of the Communist Party to not provide certain licenses or supplies that Tesla needs. The other issue, and it's true for most of these major companies that have large China exposure, is that Beijing views them as a threat. And Beijing is very worried about Tesla's driving around military compounds and spying on Chinese officials. It's worried about all the data that Tesla can collect in China. And so as a result, it tries to limit the ability of Tesla to do that. It requires it to store a lot of data in China. And as we all know, storing data in China can cause real problems for the safety and the sanctity of that data globally. So that's another major risk. And we are starting to see cars as smartphones, and when you allow for a company with very heavy China exposure to gather global data, it's something that regulators, investors also need to be aware of.
Yeah, and I think Apple's kind of dealing with the same thing as they try to bring in Apple Intelligence to China, Isaac. But the fact that Elon Musk has shifted to the right and as Dave mentioned, potentially could be in a potential Trump administration, do you think that bodes well for at least China, that that there is someone of influence in this Trump administration potentially that could help maybe weather these relations between U.S. and China?
There's talk about who the next Kissinger would be, and permit the impolite way of describing it, but Beijing is looking for the next useful idiot who can advance Beijing's policies in Washington while giving very little in return. Musk would be a very different mold for this than Kissinger himself. I think what we've also learned from Trump is that Trump is very mercurial, and Musk could advocate very strongly for one position, and Trump could very much go in a different direction. That said, in the near term, providing that Musk doesn't get caught up in some sort of conflict of interest provision that doesn't let him do what he wants to do from an investment perspective, Musk's relationship with Trump probably does bode well, at least in the short term, for the value of Tesla stock.
Isaac,